Welcome into NBL Now for your Wednesday morning. We're getting to the business end of the season. There is a lot of games left, especially in January. We have teams trying to get into the top 2, teams just trying to get into the top 6, and there's plenty left to play for. And joining me on this Wednesday morning, the one and only Beck Allen. Beck, thank you for joining me. You were in Adelaide on Monday night. It was a fun game, and the 36ers, when they're at their best, Kendrick Davis said they can beat anyone. It's hard to disagree.
It's hard to disagree, but also what an environment and atmosphere in Adelaide. You can tell that the fans get behind their team no matter where they're at, within a season, but they know that this is the crunch time. This is a big moment for them, so they really did need the win the other night. But what concerns me is that the way they started was awesome. That's the team that we see that other teams will fear playing against, because the ball is moving, they're playing fast, they're hitting shots. But when it starts to get a little bit ugly, let's say they get a couple of turnovers, some forced shots, all of that, the wheels fall off. So that's my big concern. So even though Davis does say we can beat anyone, I agree. But do they have the chemistry to stay together?
That's the big question, right? We spoke about it on NBL Overtime. I do agree that they can probably beat anybody at any given point, but the other side of it is we've seen they can also lose to anybody at any given point, and there's some big games. They probably, if you look at the ladder predictor, which is now live on the NBL website, jump on and play around with that. They're probably going to have to win 4 of their remaining 7 to get into the finals.
Yeah.
It is achievable, but again, they've got 2 trips over to Perth who are gunning for a top 2 spot. When you have to play, your backs are against the wall, every game here is so important. Do you think that's going to help their chances to do it, knowing that if they lose one more, they might be done?
I don't know if that's going to help them, honestly, because I think that they can do it. I think any team can do it in these big moments, but to be playing Perth, like you said, twice, I mean, that makes it a lot harder for them, but it's a position they put themselves into. But what I think I'd want to see from them is when someone's hot, keep getting the ball. Keep going in. Humphreys started the game great. You go away from him. Montrez as well. He was hitting shots from everywhere, and then he goes missing in the second half. So I think that there needs to be an element of intelligence brought back to how they play, and that's when I think that having, Kadee coming in as that point guard, getting Davis off the ball a little bit, so he's still involved, but maybe not so much the generator of plays and setting up a system, because I don't know if that's really where his skill set is always, because you want the ball in his hands. But at the same time, I think that they can lose a system when it's needed and that change of momentum.
It's a great point you made, because it's probably what cost them the game down in Tasmania. Isaac Humphreys was balling in the first half. They went away from it in the second half, and they ended up losing that one. So to be able to stick with it, you mentioned just off the top, the vibe down in Adelaide. Now, I've been there a few times this season, the entertainment centre.
Yeah.
If they do manage to get to the finals in a playing tournament, it doesn't look like they'll be hosting a home game. But if they can get to a semi-finals, that home court advantage for Adelaide.
Massive.
It's weird to say unlike any other team, because everyone has their unique aspects, but they get around their team and they thrive off that energy.
I can see it. And it's so funny when you witness it firsthand. Like, you really do see the intimacy of the arena too. Like, it's loud, especially, I was there commentating. I hear nothing in that headpiece when we're standing up pre-game, halftime, post-game as well, which is awesome. And it speaks volumes, to how the organization is run. And you've got some pretty big diehard fans that have been in that organization since they were kids to now being adults, bringing their kids along. And so I think it's got that real sort of family atmosphere as well.
Now, you play basketball at every level, at the highest possible levels. You've been through the ebbs and flows of a season. The Illawarra Hawks, in a little bit of a form slump, let's say. They dropped that one to Adelaide. They lose all 3 games this season to Adelaide. But I still believe they're going to be the team to beat to win a championship. Do you think them having to face that kind of adversity now is going to help them when they get to the finals?
I 100% do. I also don't see it as a slump. I understand that they never want to get swept in those 3 games to a team sort of like Adelaide as well. But I think that can't not help you in terms of how you're building towards winning a championship. No team goes through without having any losses. So I think for them, I don't see it as a negative. Also, their coach is on them. You can see that they've really got a set of standards that he upholds and expects them to really play to week in, week out. And you see how animated he gets on the sidelines. So he's very ride or die for his players, which I really quite like. But I just think that even in the game that we just saw them against Adelaide, they never get frazzled to me. They still always go back to, okay, this is our fundamentals of how we want to play. They don't get rushed within their system. So I like how they play. I like their system a lot. So I think when you've got that sort of foundation as a team and a unity, because they're a together team, I think that they're going to be the number one to beat this season.
And a lot of that is, I guess, their bench unit as well. Their starting five is terrific, but Days came on late in that game, hit some really big threes. He played exceptional the week before.
Yes.
You talk about the finals where the superstars are normally the ones that get a team to a championship series. But in terms of winning a championship, and the NBL has proven it, every league's proven it, your bench unit, the X factors are the ones that help you do that. And look,
100%.
I still believe Illawarra has that best bench unit.
I agree with you. I agree. And you've also got Ulbrich that gives Sam Froling a break as well. So and he's playing about 17 minutes a game, I'm pretty sure, around that. And so for him to be getting those minutes in, and you can tell that his teammates trust him, that's pretty big, especially for a young player. So I think the way that they've organized, their starting group, their second unit, there's no let off. And I think that that's really key to being a championship team, is that you're not just so heavily reliant firstly on one player. I think those teams will never win a championship, but it's the fact that they've got trust in each person to take that shot. And I think even when you look at their starting group, the way that they all crash the glass, they do the 1%ers, they're playing hard, that's setting the precinct of how they're going to play. And then you've got the bench that come in and they just keep that going. So that's why I like them as a group. I think you can tell that they look to their left, their right, and they trust that person that's to take that shot.
Well, it does set up for a big game this weekend.
It does.
Top spot on the line, really. Illawarra Hawks, Melbourne United are coming into town. And talk a little bit about that game. There's a big game tonight with a preview in terms of Brisbane and Perth. But Melbourne United, now, it was the game before the Illawarra Adelaide game, the Chris Goulding game, 10 threes. They've been in a bit of a form slump themselves, but he's on. They're never out of it. And he continues to prove. He turns 37 this year.
Wow.
He used to just not slow down, aging like a fine wine. What do you think of that performance?
I think it's insane. I don't know if there's any other way. And he's had multiple of those performances. And so for him to shoot the ball like that, and what's funny is I really think that whenever he's going to touch it, everyone in that arena thinks it's going in. He thinks it's definitely going in, which is an awesome mentality as a shooter to have. But when you've got all the fans like sort of doing this outward, when he gets the ball to shoot it, because they know that it's going to go in, being the opposition, I think that's awesome. But for him, he needs no space. He just needs to get a glimpse of that ring, and he's launching it. And God, he's just a great scorer, especially in those crunch moments.
It's going to be a fun game to watch. Melbourne heading over to Illawarra. It's so much on the line. Top spot on the line, home court advantage, potentially in a championship series. But the game tonight, we've got the Brisbane Bullets, who are just battled with injuries. They're missing some key pieces. They've had to deal with it all season long. But the Perth Wildcats coming to town. This is Perth's last game on the road before they head back to RAC Arena. They haven't been here since the start of December, but all eyes are going to be on Bryce Cotton, who has actually had two of his lowest scoring games against Brisbane, which is absurd when you think about the numbers he's putting up. What are we expecting tonight? Because I called last night, I think we'll see a 40-piece. What do you think we'll get from Bryce?
Oh, God, it could be anything. I like what you've called, because isn't it funny? Because when he gets those sort of high-scoring games like that, he gets a string of them in a row. It's never really just a one-off, So, but for him to have, I think it was, 26 points at the half? You're feeling so many other players, sometimes there's a drop-off after that in that second half. Not for him. He just keeps going up. It's extraordinarily linear for him. So I'm with you on that. I can see it being another 40-piece, but even if it's not, he's having such an impact just purely from being on the court, because he draws that much attention, so he's always going to have eyes on him. There's going to be someone in guarding him close, and with that help defense. So even if he isn't the one scoring, which I don't think will happen, but his teammates are getting open, his teammates are getting good shots, so they're a fun offense to watch.
Well, they are. And again, they've been on the road for so long, and they've been winning on the road. I think they've only lost one, and they're about to have 5 home games, I think, of their remaining 6 or 7 of the regular season in front of the Red Army. So they're in a very good position to strike on a potential top 2, but also be playing their best basketball come the finals. Is this Perth team led by Bryce Cotton? Can they go all the way? Do they have all the pieces?
It is like what you said, peaking at the right time. I agree. And so that's why 100% they're in contention for getting that that championship. And I just think that when you are constantly building, winning on the road is the hardest part of playing. So if you're getting those wins, but you're also matching it with the wins at home, you're very, very hard to beat. So I think they're putting themselves in a great position, especially being led by Bryce Cotton. I think that the way that they're performing and getting better and better, and then also just having a string of home games, your confidence is going to be high. You're going to feel more rested as a player, even though there's a lot of games. You're not traveling. Traveling cannot be undersold as being one of the most exhausting parts of playing. So I think they're putting themselves in an awesome position.
And on the flip side of that tonight, the Brisbane Bullets, as I say, they're decimated with injuries. But what that normally means, we've seen it around the league. We saw it with South East Melbourne last night with some guys. The silver lining is you've got youngsters who are desperate for more opportunity. Guys like Isaac White who can step up. Even Mitch Norton on the offensive end to step up a little bit more. That's silver lining when you are someone who's been just hoping to get extended minutes and you see key guys go out and you have no choice but to have probably more trust from a coach. That can be dangerous. They can be a dangerous proposition going forward.
Yeah, because you're about to give everything, aren't you? Because you're playing for even the next season. You're playing for your contract coming up as well, and you're trying to make a point and prove your worth to be on the court and gaining that trust, sort of like you said. So those players are extremely dangerous, and that's why, as an opponent, you can't come into the game thinking this is going to be a walkover, like you've seen with Tassie as well. They've had countless injuries, but you see the likes of Drimmick stepping up and he's just knocking down shots outside. He's being on that attack foot. He's being aggressive. So I don't know. I look at those sorts of teams and who maybe are struggling to make playoffs or they've had the injury woes, which a lot of teams have had this season. That does not count them out, and you have to know that they're going to come in for a fight.
There's an element of luck that goes into winning a championship on whatever sport because you need to have some sort of health on your side.
I agree.
How to do it. Now, lastly, before I let you go, I want to talk about this playing tournament as a whole because, as I said, the ladder predictor is live. You have a look at it now. Any other season, it probably wouldn't be as enticing, as exciting in the end because you've just got 4 teams, 4 spots, and 3 of them are probably locked away. But now we have a race for there's 3 teams. It's Brisbane, Adelaide, Tasmania look like going to be fighting out for the 6th spot just to play postseason basketball. It could come down to percentage. It could come down to one shot in the entire season that either puts a team in the postseason or it sends them to Bali for an early trip. And then you've got teams like Perth, Melbourne who want to try and get in 2nd spot. The beauty of this playing tournament, I love it. Did you love it at the start? Have you changed your tune? What is it?
I think I do love it. I think it's also a part of European basketball too, where they have the play-in, so it's not foreign to me at all.
It's very fun to watch. I'm excited to see who's going to finish and avoid the playing tournament, who's going to get into the top 6. Beck, you are doing a wonderful job. We'll see you on some games soon. I think we've got a game next week, actually, down at the State Park.
We do. South East Melbourne. I'm excited.
That's going to have a lot to be playing out in the finals. So thank you so much for joining us. Next week on the broadcast soon. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Big game coming up tonight, Brisbane and Perth.